This episode of Film Riot Mondays is brought to you by Kef Audio.
Today on Film Riot, we're going to be talking about camera techniques and showing you how to work it, girl. Welcome to Film Riot Mondays, the little brother to Film Riot. 2 weeks ago, we talked about basic coverage for a scene. Now today, we're going to take it a step further and talk about a few easy camera techniques that you can use to enhance your story. Ready as I am? Let's dance. First, we're going to go through the main types of shots and their names, and then later we're going to cover why you would want to use some of those shots for emotional reasons. First up is a long shot. This one is a shot that shows you the entirety of your subject. For instance, on a person, it would be from head to toe. Next, we move to a medium shot. This one is from about the hips up on an actor. After that, we move in further to a medium close-up, which is about from chest up, and then a close-up, which will be from the shoulders up, and then finally, an extreme close-up. An extreme close-up will fill the frame completely with your subject, and you can have an extreme close-up of pretty much anything. For instance, this would be a close-up of an actor's watch, and this would be an extreme close-up of the watch. Now we move on from distance to angle. We have a low angle, which is below your actor's eye level. By placing the camera lower, you are making your actor seem larger than your audience. This is a great way to denote power. You can of course use this to an extreme low angle, like Orson Welles famously did in Citizen Kane. He actually had his crew dig a hole in the studio floor so he could get the camera as low as he wanted, which is pretty awesome if you ask me. Next is a high angle, which will be a shot where your camera is higher than your actor's eye level. This can be used to denote weakness in your character or make them seem insignificant since we're visually seeing them as smaller. And of course the extreme of this would be a bird's eye view shot. This shot is directly overhead of your subject. One of my favorite examples of this would be the final shot in Scorsese's Taxi Driver. It's almost like we have this God's view, which is empowering to the audience and also disconnects them from the event a bit and gives them this overview of the scene. Final type of angle I want to tell you about is the Dutch angle, also called the oblique angle. This is where the camera is not level. It's a bit off, which gives the feeling of something being wrong, which is a great way to push an odd feeling onto your audience and in your scene. My favorite examples of this come mostly from Brian De Palma's films, especially Mission Impossible. I think De Palma used the Dutch angle perfectly in that film. But there are more camera techniques than just the basic camera angle. There's also basic techniques on how you move the camera. For instance, you have a pan. That's when you're turning the camera left or right on a tripod or while a cameraman holds it, but they stay in the same position. Then you have a tilt, which is when you're moving the lens up or down, again with the tripod or cameraman staying in the same position. Next, we have the dolly shot. This is when the camera is locked down in some way, whether on a dolly or a slider or whatever DIY method that you've devised to use, and then you're moving the camera left, right, or forward and back on this track. Moving on, we have a crane shot, which is exactly what it sounds like. This is when the camera is on a jib or a crane and is being lowered or raised in a scene. One of the most famous for me is from Shawshank Redemption, which is also kind of a combo because we're also getting a bird's eye view at the end there. How you like them apples? Finally, you have handheld. This is when your camera is not locked down. It's instead operated by a cameraman on his shoulder. Or for a lot of us no budgeters, it's just our hands, because shoulder mounts are expensive. This is also an indie favorite because it makes production much faster since there's no need to set up extra gear for each angle. You can just do the whole run and gun thing. But those are the basics, and now after a quick break, we'll come back and talk about why you would want to use them for emotionality. For those of you out there who do not already know about Kef, they have been designing and engineering high-end innovative loudspeakers in the UK since 1961 and have now pushed the envelope even further by making a truly thin loudspeaker. We're talking only 1.4 inches thin. The new T-Series from Kef looks incredible and sounds even better, and I would know because it's sitting in my living room right now and it sounds amazing. Kef is actually also going to be giving away a set of T-Series speakers every month for the rest of the summer. All you have to do is follow them on Twitter and you are entered to win. It's seriously that easy. Just follow them now at Kef_direct and be automatically entered to win a T105 full 5.1 home theater system. And the speakers have a retail cost of around $1,500. So if you're already on Twitter and it's free to follow them, I would just go ahead and start doing that right now. Again, that's at Kef_direct. And thank you again to Kef and the new T-Series Slim Speakers Serious Sound.
Logo.
So good to be back, baby dude. Let's get all emotional on this mother lover. Now, as a filmmaker, you always have to have your end result in mind. Your camera is the eyes of the audience. It's an objective observer that you have complete control over. So what visual techniques you use to tell your story will have one of the biggest impacts on the tone of your film. So understanding some of those basics of what effects these techniques can have is a must. Take, for instance, a dialogue scene. You can use a distance from your actor to help tell the story. If you want us to feel connected to the character and really feel the emotion that they're displaying, then you might want to go to a close-up, since this is a very intimate shot with the character. But if you want us to feel more disconnected, cut to a wider shot, and maybe even dirty the frame a bit with a foreground object. You can also use foreground objects to an extreme to maybe visually insinuate that the character is hiding something or that they're trapped, since visually there is nowhere to go. Then, if you want the character to seem lonely or abandoned, you may want to go to a long shot. Here we have the character in a wide open and empty space, no friends around. Then there is focal length, which is how zoomed in or out you are on your lens. If you use a longer focal length while shooting your subject, the background will feel much closer to them, which could give it a claustrophobic feel. But if you drop to a short focal length, the background seems much further from the subject and it opens up the world. We can also move the camera to help push the emotion you want your audience to feel. You can dolly in or out, to the right or left to reveal, or use a slow zoom for dramatic emphasis. The way you decide to use motion or not will have very different effects on your scene. Finally, we have depth of field. This is one of my favorites to mess with and one of the easiest ways to force your audience to focus on what you want them to. A good example of this is from our last episode. In the sketch, I racked focus from the wrist weapon to Josh's face. It was a great way to build the scene a bit further before moving to the next stage where all the shooting begins. It used to be next to impossible to get shallow depth of field for the non-budgeters like us, but now thanks to DSLRs and lens adapters, us no-budgeters can finally use this fantastical tool. But there you have it, the basics you need to know to get started with better visuals. Of course, rules are always made to be broken, and these shots can mean something completely different in different contexts of your story. The point is to start thinking about the psychology behind how you use your camera, so you can take your filmmaking skills to the next level.
Logo.
And now this is the end, but don't forget to come back on Thursday when we're going to be showing you how we made the Cowboys and Aliens wrist weapon and how we made it move and attach those lens flares. Also, if you would like to be entered into a chance to win a free Filmmaker t-shirt and a custom Film Riot mini poster signed by the whole Film Riot crew, all you have to do is go to this link and follow the instructions. The link is also in the description, so go visit, throw your name into the mix while helping your friendly neighborhood Film Riot. But until next week, stay safe and watch good films.